And what it sits at right now is it's social travel for experiences. So we have hundreds of thousands of experiences. We're in 168 countries, and you can book directly from video content. Every single video that's uploaded to Otsy gets connected to the specific experience, feeding the live booking data, which we're following a design patent on that. So every video has a live price. It has exactly where it is. If you click the price, it takes you straight to the venue page. You book it.
All right, welcome back to Exploring Growth. Today we have the opportunity to hear from Michael DeLucca, founder and CEO of Otsy. Otsy is a social travel app that blends the best aspects of social media with the functionality of booking travel. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Doing good. I think before we get into our conversation, I wanted to just say to the listeners, if you're listening to this, Otsy is a cool app. I've kind of downloaded it, played around with it a little bit before this, so I had some context to it. If you're on your phone, listening on your phone, go over to your app store, download the app, and see it in its full effect, like as you're listening to this discussion. Because I think what we're about to get into is probably going to be more interesting if you're looking at the app. So with that said, I want to talk about the app. I want to dig into, what's this app and how did you get here? But I also want to talk about the process you're going through right now of raising capital. I think you're in a seed round. So
sure, yeah.
I want to talk about that, the business behind the app, of course, getting there. So bring us up to speed. Like, what did you do before this, and how did you land on this idea?
Yeah, so I got into the sort of the experiential travel space about 15 years ago with a company called Red Carpet VIP. It's travelredcarpet.com. And we're in Miami and we're in Vegas, but we basically are a concierge independent of like casinos and hotels. And we handle a lot of corporate travel, birthday parties. Anytime large groups are getting together, we need to do room blocks. We need space that's dedicated. And I do that from high net worth all the way down to, 25-year-old's wedding party. That's something small with a party bus. So we kind of everything in between. I've done some crazy things for clients in Vegas. That'll be a whole nother show maybe where we can talk about some of those. I've built zoos in hotel rooms. So there's some exciting stuff there. And kind of as I grew over the years, and I have a marketing background, and I do digital marketing specifically. I also buy a lot of outdoor. And I've worked with brands from Virgin Atlantic to Win Encore and MGM International. And over the years, I kind of really dialed in that cost to acquire a customer to the lifetime value of a customer, specifically in experiential travel. And so it allowed me to just sort of like rinse and repeat and get to the point where you're pouring gasoline on a fire, where the math is sort of mathing on that, which is not always easy to do. But when you have 15 years of data, you're able to really dial it in. And we were able to get up to about 25 million in ARR in just one city of Las Vegas doing this. We took a little bit of a step backwards after COVID, and then sort of reorganized who our target customer was again. As the world reopened, and obviously travel came back with a vengeance. But we chose then to sort of focus more on corporate, high net worth individuals, which we drove more profit to the bottom line with doing about $5 to $7 million less on the top line. So I've always been fascinated by technology, and I'm an early adopter of everything. I'm already as heavy into the Vision Pro as you can be. Otsy is on Vision Pro. It's not a fully immersed app on Vision Pro, but you can absolutely use it and look at videos all over the world and full checkout process. So it was no surprise when I came into Red Carpet. I didn't start it. I purchased it in 2017. And I had a smaller competitor called VIP in Vegas at the time. And when I made that transition in, the first thing was like, oh man, they have no CRM system. They're using Google Sheets. And this company's doing $8, $9, $10 million with Google Sheets. And I was like, how are you visualizing data? How are you reaching back out to your previous customers? And they weren't. Never reached out to one previous customer doing $8 million a year. Just new business. it wasn't bad, right?
No.
So it's kind of like, I'm sure you would be just as excited for the
Oh
balance
yeah.
sheet and the P&L as I was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this thing is as analog as it comes,
Yeah.
right? So I came in there and I'm like, wow, I wonder what will happen if I build some sales funnels here,
Hmm.
run some really targeted ROI ads,
Hmm.
and then drop that into a CRM, then run even data points on each individual. We had 20 something sales guys at the time, and
Right.
running each individual, creating plans for each one, and following really which, not only which, because we're in the lead business, right? So it's like leads are great, but if you're not visualizing what you're closing,
Hmm.
even though a lead may actually, or an ad may create a lot of leads, it may not be something that we're closing.
Right.
So it's kind of like that aspect was really broken
Hmm.
of, hey, this stuff's generating a lot of action and people are making phone calls, but like it wasn't creating sales.
Yeah. And that
So
seems like the easiest problem to fix, because if you're
it
getting the
is.
attention, now it's just converting it.
It is. So we built a massive Salesforce system. It was a 2-year undertaking of tracking every sort of data metric that you can come out with. And that made me fall in love with technology. And then naturally, you start to look at it and you're like, well, how do I do $100 million?
Hmm.
And I sort of hit this glass ceiling and I couldn't figure it out. And I reached out to a few of our clients and I said, you love our company. You guys are in tech. What are your thoughts? And they're like, not scalable.
Hmm.
Your business requires you to know everybody on the ground because your client comes to you, they want a dinner reservation at Carbone, it's sold out. You got
Yeah.
to call the GM. So you have to know the people. You can't really make money while you sleep. And I took that to heart. This is in 2019, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to build something. I don't know exactly what to build, and I went out and hired my first sort of 3 developers in February of 2020.
All
So
right.
I
Timing.
yeah, so I gave them a job, and immediately March, the world is closing. I'm in travel. We got hit the hardest. And so I'm laying off staff, but I decided, you know what, let me keep the developers and let me work remotely with them and let me see what I can build. Because I'm sure the world's going to reopen at some point, and maybe I
Hmm.
can get ahead of the game for once. So we really started workshopping a lot. And when there's nothing to do but be on the internet, when the world is shut down, I ended up spending way more hours on social media than I'd like to share with you right now
Definitely.
because it's embarrassing. But what ended up happening was I'm getting served all this beautiful travel content, and it's like, imagine waking up here, and it's like the overwater bungalow. People are
Hmm.
diving into the water, and I'm kind of like, man, I need a vacation myself. We're in
Yeah.
lockdown, and I then started to bookmark and save all this stuff. So as we come out of sort of COVID and the world starts to reopen, I I go back to all my bookmark social posts, and now I'm like becoming this detective of like, whoa, where is that? What
Hmm.
does that cost? And then I'm like reading in the comments, and then I'm
Yeah.
Googling, and then I'm
There's
going
got
to
to be an easier
TripAdvisor.
way.
And I just was like, this is ridiculous that every trip is still coming from the perspective that we're so unique ourselves that 5,000 people, 100,000 people didn't take the exact same trip,
Yeah.
maybe plus or minus a couple of things a la carte. So I set out on this path of creating something to connect people and bridge the gap of all this content that's sitting on social media. And in fact, I went down the rabbit hole on the research, and it was something like 84% of millennials and Gen Zs are using social media for that first step of inspiration of travel.
Hmm.
Um, 700 at the time of making the deck, 711 million posts just for the hashtag travel on Instagram, not bookable.
Right.
So
I
I
mean, I
just was
can
like,
tell
that's a
you,
miss,
yeah, I can
right?
speak to that because I'm planning trips with my family, and we're planning a trip to London at the moment. And I kind of planned it over time where I like to spend some time on Instagram, spend some time on TripAdvisor. I spend time on different platforms when I have the time, and I'll kind of put
Right,
everything together in a spreadsheet. Here are the top places I've for food. Here are the top places to stay or whatever. And I've sort of found that as well. Like it works for my process because I'm very I don't know, in depth. Like I want to go in
right,
depth and see everything, see everything that's available and kind of choose the best ones, and
right,
then figure out strategically how to make that trip come to life. But to your point, like I'm on Instagram and I see this amazing bakery that is, well, we have to go there because of things that they're
Right.
showing me, like I have to be there. But then I have to do all the work going from that post to try to figure out, okay, well, where is this bakery? Oh, now I'm on their page, and now I got to click on their bio. I've got to go through all these steps just to figure out where are they and how do I get to them. So
You're exactly
it's a
right.
whole process. Yeah.
And as you know, as a digital marketer, think about what happens to that conversion rate every time you take someone off one platform onto another platform onto another
Correct.
platform.
Yeah.
It drops, and so I think travel sits in one of the worst industry wide conversion rates, something like a 1.3 to 1.8%.
Hmm.
And it's so bad because we've been conditioned to have to go do all this research.
Hmm.
So we're fragmenting it all out, and it's a necessary fragment, right? Frankly, I want to read reviews. I like reviews. I want to be inspired before I even search. So now I'm going over here to social media. I'm getting inspired. Now I'm like, okay, let me start Googling some things. Then I start reading the reviews. But what I really think Otsy, so there's what Otsy sits at as today and what we're sort of developing for the future. And what it sits at right now is it's social travel for experiences. So we have hundreds of thousands of experiences. We're in 168 countries, and you can book directly from video content. Every single video that's uploaded to Otsy gets connected to the specific experience, feeding the live booking data, which we're following a design patent on that. So every video has a live price. It has exactly where it is. If you click the price, it takes you straight to the venue page. You book it. So we are the social platform and we are the OTA, the online travel agency.
Hmm.
So we are Expedia. And we pull Expedia, we pull Viator, we pull Get Your Guide, and with the ability of creating your own experiences on platform. So we have everything, and we run algorithms on the lowest price. So we make sure we have the lowest price being offered on the internet,
Hmm.
and the ability to then connect you with people like you. So interestingly enough, which was so serendipitous because I literally use this to describe the app, and now it's going to resonate with you. So I tell everyone we're not in dining yet, but we actually have a API partnership with Yelp rolling out. So we'll be pulling dining into the app very shortly over the summer. But I always say to everyone, to understand the app is to understand how to connect with people in communities. And when you do that, it becomes less of a review and more of a referral, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about pizza. I love pizza, right?
Hmm.
But I love a very specific type of pizza that came from a place that you just visited,
Yes. Right.
called New Haven, Connecticut, and
Yeah.
it's New Haven of Beats. And I love Sally's, and I love Pepe's, I love Modern, I love all
Mhm.
the pizza there. So when I look at pizza reviews all over the world, right?
Mhm.
It becomes this issue of let's pretend reviews aren't manipulated. Let's pretend that they're not, run by Karens. So
Sure.
let's pretend that they're purist. Um, there's a relevancy issue. How do I know who in the reviews is most like me?
Mhm.
So when I look at a pizza review, I'd like to not see a pizza review from everybody. I'd like to see only pizza reviews from people that think New Haven style pizza is the
Mhm.
best pizza in the
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
And now it starts to filter and learn. And now we get into this deep machine learning and using AI to build these predictability models. And
Sure.
so that's what we're doing at Otsy. We're connecting you on over 100,000 data points right now, but that's growing. That'll be millions
Yeah.
of data points in the future to connect you to people like you and sort
So
of reduce that decision fatigue.
yeah, so that resonates with me because so when I'm zooming out looking at the app, I'm thinking that everything is made on the user experience just as it is with TikTok or YouTube or whatever, however we're engaging with this app. It's all about the experience we're having and the content that's being put in front of us, how we're engaging with that content. So to
It
me, I
is.
feel like that is how you're going to really win new people over, is to get them engaged, um, in a way that they're used to engaging with apps like this. But the piece that I think that you're hitting on that really resonates with me as a marketer, and as I look out kind of in the marketing sphere, is this idea of connection in community. And I can't remember. I was just watching an interview with someone the other day talking about this specifically on YouTube. But you have a lot of influencers
Right.
across different platforms, but specifically on YouTube, that they
Hmm.
build followings that become communities, and these communities become
Right.
private communities. Patreon is a big thing, but YouTube is building this into their platform as well. And this is all current day kind of iteration integration into seeing what people want and are doing and accepting it onto the platform. And I really do think that that's where everything is headed. There are already stats saying that attention is coming off of social media at large and going towards these private communities, because it's been enough time now where you've got enough um, genres and vertical or niches across everything you can think of, from woodworking to baking to dancing to whatever it is.
Right.
That there are these influencers that have risen to the top at each one of those, and people are starting to follow them and get cut out a lot of the noise. So I think that what you're doing here is super interesting, because if you can tailor, like you said, to the New Haven type of pizza, that's the kind that I've sort of either
Right.
subconsciously done or consciously tick the box to say this is what I'm looking for. Then it's going to start tailoring me to influencers that serve me best.
Right. And that is, you're exactly right. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. But it's also like stepping back one step and saying, you know, it's not just influencers, right? It's just making everybody
Mm-hmm.
the ability to share, create, and connect.
Mm-hmm.
So and I look at it like, what does success look like? And it looks a lot like a subreddit almost.
Okay.
That like the app becomes these sub communities of connecting with
Mm-hmm.
people. And that seems to be the most important when we pull users and we ask them, they want to meet people and they actually want to take trips with them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like an iteration that we're looking into. Like, I'm connecting you with the type of trips you should take, but I'll give you an example. Say you're really into anime and you want to take a Japan trip. You and I might take a Japan trip, but that might not be our genre. We might just go there just for the sights or the food or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that perspective is of why we're there. But it's most interesting when you can kind of find your, we call it your tribe, right? Sort of
Yes.
connect with your tribe and people like yourself. And I have not seen this as a millennial myself on the older side. I've not seen so much solo travel get sort of boom in the last few years. Like, I have
Mm-hmm.
individual people that work for me that like just take a trip to Japan all by themselves.
Yeah.
So the ability to sort of blend that subreddit community with then like the aspects of meetup,
Yeah.
and then wrap that into a social travel experience where
Yeah.
you're making meaningful connections, finding the right things based on things that you like
Mm-hmm.
at price point, retention rate of your videos, and then finding your tribe of that community.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if I'm able to do that, then we're looking at a unicorn type product.
I agree 100%. And I think that the digital nomads of the world who work remotely 100%, they're constantly traveling, is one lifestyle. But the person you just mentioned who doesn't travel 100% of the time, but wants to sort of tap into that lifestyle, a few weekends out of the quarter, or,
Right.
whatever, they're kind of getting a taste of what they're seeing on Instagram. And that's the perfect, I think, starting point for making this work.
Yeah, and we actually share 50% of the booking commissions. So we have a
Yeah,
whole
which,
creator portal. Yeah, you go
yeah.
right through, and it's not gated. Anyone can become, as long
Mhm.
as you fill out the W-9 and connect your PayPal account.
Mhm.
Anyone can become a creator in the app. So it's not specific to having hundreds of thousands of followers. You can have 100 of your family members following you. You
Mhm.
you go to Disney World and you want to post your trip, and they want to click through it.
Mhm.
Doesn't make it any more expensive to the individual, and you're going to start receiving commissions. And I'm hoping to get into a point where you're sort of like between loyalty rewards and commissions, sort of yielding another free trip,
Yeah.
and creating this infinite trip loop for yourselves.
Yeah.
Because taking a vacation is expensive, especially if you have a family. It gets really pricey really quickly.
For sure. Yeah. Well, this is all very interesting, and I think it's sort of hidden. Like at first glance, it's sort of hidden that the truth of what you're building here, but which I think is the sort of unicorn idea behind all of this, because you're not really competing with social media platforms, and you're not really competing with booking platforms. You're sort of creating some new thing that I think is where people are naturally going. So it's like you're building this place that they want, but they have yet to know that they want it. And that's super difficult
Right.
to do.
It is. I mean, then you're fighting that uphill battle of adoption, right? You're in
Mhm.
that educational space, and most of the time, people don't know really what they want until you've showed them,
Yeah.
hey, this is
Because
the
y-
future
yeah, because
of
then you
it.
get back
Yeah.
to marketing. Like messaging for marketing is okay, let's talk about booking and let's talk about social media and let's try to talk about this magical thing in between that they don't know that they want really yet. So you have to kind of get them in on messaging that they're consciously aware of, and then have that light bulb go off for them that, oh, I can
Right.
connect to other people that are like me or other places that I want to go that are, kind of tailored to my liking. Then I think it starts to make sense. Then I think it starts to catch fire.
Right. So sort of the approach, and so we launched a beta in October of last year. We
Mhm.
invited 10,000 allowed list users into the platform, and they made bookings, they created content, and then we sort of shut that down, launched a Telegram community channel, and said, okay, what did you guys hate? What did you love? What worked?
Mhm.
What didn't work? Because obviously, I think if you look at Otsy and you download it yourself and you play with it. I built a Rolls Royce of an MVP.
Mhm.
This thing is as enterprise as it comes. It's almost overbuilt to a certain degree,
Yeah.
and that's just having experience and being a little older in the industry that you want to put forth a really fantastic product,
Sure.
especially when you're handling people's vacations. I mean, oh my
Yeah.
God, what do you not want to mess up is
Yeah.
you took your family all the
Because
way
you'll
to
hear it.
Europe and I screwed up all the
Yeah.
bookings and your QR codes didn't get. So we took a lot of extra time and special care into that. And also sort of like even against the way Airbnb or Uber launched, they went city by city, right?
Mhm.
And it's a really smart approach, but and this is kind of that thing when I say that it's almost what used to work doesn't always work now. Competing for space on someone's hardware device on their cell phone, there's got to be this large value add from the beginning. So had I just built it in Miami or Las Vegas, our headquartered hometowns, I don't think that would have been enough to get someone to download it and put it on their phone. It's kind of
Mhm.
like, hey, if you're not everywhere, I'm not really interested to give you space on my phone.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to launch in 168 countries and digest over 400,000 experiences, and then sort of run our own LLM and our own
Mhm.
deep machine learning model on it and visualize all that data. So we built something very complex from the very beginning, but now I think it lends to that ultimate user experience. And sort of the first line of defense right now is just finding people with travel content that's really interesting and
Yeah.
bringing them on platform, incentivizing them. And then sort of once you have all the content that's
Mhm.
really cool, then you go after the users and say, hey, this app has all the travel content that you want
Mhm.
to see. Why don't you come over and take a look at it?
Yeah. So those early adopters then are people who are all influencers, but also non-influencers that are naturally traveling and want to kind of look into sharing that in a different way and maybe get some kind of affiliate revenue from it.
It is, yeah. So we have two programs. One, we pay our affiliates $1 a download into using the app, and then obviously we give up to 50% of the booking commissions in perpetuity on every single booking. And on average, our platform we take a platform fee about 20% of every experience. So we just
Okay.
split that. So there's ability to go into. Now we start to look at what does the market look like? Is there a recession looming? Are we in the
Mhm.
recession? And the one positive thing is that what happens in sort of a downturned market is you're going to get an explosion of the economy, the gig economy.
Mhm.
So people are trying to find side hustles. How do I make extra money? How
Yeah,
do I
that's
actually take a trip and earn some of my cash back on the trip? That becomes
yeah.
more important. So from a consumer side, I think we're going to see a large expansion of the utilization of the app as travelers and consumers alike sort of see, hey, I can make $30,000 to $100,000 a year selling trips on this thing,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, which kind of pays for their trips.
right, and we're building that use case right now, and putting that forth in a lot of our marketing efforts. But organically, we're getting about 100 to 200 people a week sign up for the platform.
Mhm.
We went from 2,000 users in February to almost 10,000 right now, and we're now creating this seed round where we have about 70% of the seed round closed already. So we have a $5 million seed. It's a big seed. And we've brought in close to 4 million of it
That's
so
great.
far. So we're about
Yeah.
down to our last million of the raise. So it's going really well. It didn't go as fast as I thought it would. I
Yeah.
opened that round in April. I'm still in it in July. I always say, as a founder, you almost do this, and you know the numbers. You know that it's an uphill battle, but you kind of have to say, well, I think it's going to be easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever delusional reason you tell yourself it's going to
Yeah,
be
sure.
easier, because you wouldn't do it. It's like, it's so hard. You wouldn't
Yeah.
do it if
Right.
you
Of
didn't
course.
believe you can cut some corners. But
Yeah.
no corner has had to be cut right now.
That's great.
It's a grind out in the field.
Well, so let's talk about raising capital. Take
Sure.
us through the process of bringing this idea to investors. What was your first step? And have you done this before? What does it look like?
I have. So I've raised capital in the past, and with those type of products, I sort of raised and returned a certain rate of capital, and then bought partners back out. This was my first Silicon Valley startup organization, where I was going to, go in Delaware, create a corporation. I was going to file foreign entity licenses, is where I am, and then I was going to adopt sort of the new approach of capital, which is these safe agreements, which is a simple agreement for future equity. And I didn't understand those at first. I was like, so I started with convertible notes,
Mm-hmm.
because it makes more sense. This is a
Mm-hmm.
loan, it has
Yeah.
8%, it's maturity in
Yeah.
24 months.
Right.
And then it's sort of like, I don't really like these, because these projects take a little bit longer, and then you're sort of either returning money or renegotiating. So I quickly learned that the safe was the better product and way simpler to move forward with. But that the first challenge was understanding the
Mm-hmm.
value caps, and the dilution schedules, and the management of your cap table, and sort of gaming it out, because you can make those mistakes right from the beginning and
Mm-hmm.
you're done. You'll never get to institutional capital, because by the time you get there, you just don't own enough of the product, or you got 200 people in a cap table, and the VC is like,
Gotcha.
nah. And this, or even if you were really successful, and say your first round's so low, and these guys aren't converting into the qualified round, which is
Mm-hmm.
a 409A valuation series round, the spread can be so big, the VC comes back and says, you're converting people at 2 million, you're asking us to pay 50.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you may even have that potential for that value, now they claw it all the way back.
Gotcha.
So these are sharks.
Yeah.
And when you go from sort of friends and family into angels,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're just like thrown into the mix with Harvard MBAs, and a lot of Harvard MBAs. I got
Yeah.
more Harvard MBAs on my LinkedIn, profile than there are, cards in a deck.
Right.
So this is what you'll start to deal with, and it's all analytical. So in their cycle to raising capital, 2021, they were throwing money around.
Oh yeah.
They were just like, whatever. And then even the AI wave, right? Even
Yeah.
though it wasn't a great economy, everybody FOMO. I mean, listen,
Mm-hmm.
institutions FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can FOMO. The
Oh
smartest
yeah.
investors in the world. You just feel like, I just need a piece of this market share, and you start throwing cash at projects. So what we've kind of seen, and so I'll talk about what's getting funded right now on an institutional level, and then what you can do to get funded. So what they're funding now, right? So I look at the Carta data. Carta is a custodial. Carta
Mm-hmm.
manages cap tables, and every startup founder I suggest should use Carta. But Carta releases some wonderful data. You can follow the guys from Carta on LinkedIn, and every quarter they'll kind of say who's getting the funding, sort of the socioeconomic breakdown of those people, and then in what industries are getting the funding. And so what it's starting to look at is multiple time founders, right?
Okay.
People with, and all 80% of all funding is given from Silicon Valley to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So that
makes
right
total
there,
sense.
if you're not in Silicon Valley, you're
Yeah.
already behind the eight ball, which I'm behind the eight ball. I didn't go to an
Yeah.
Ivy League school.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not in the Harvard connection. So I have to fight for every dollar I raise, like probably 99% of Americans would have to,
Yes.
right? So, yeah.
Now you're not
So,
part of an incubator or anything like that, are you?
I am not. I originally applied to a few. I thought the
Mhm.
equity was a little too high,
Okay.
so I did not. I did not join them. I started off friends and family,
Hmm.
and I started off with a $10 million value cap. So, and what it gets lost in translation. We can have a whole episode on sort of value caps and valuations, but a value cap is saying we don't know the valuation.
Hmm.
You need a 409A to get a valuation, but we got to start somewhere. And so what happens in the value cap is you kind of look at similar products in the industry, you look at how much you need to raise, and the fact that you don't want to sell off more than 20% of your company in a round. If you can sell 10%, that's even better. You got to be a
Hmm.
better product, stronger team. But sort of the worse it gets, you get up into the 20s.
Sure.
So there is metrics, like, so if I need to raise $2 million, right, like the value cap has to be a certain value cap to not give up more than 20%. So that's sort of where they are, and you benchmark them, just like thinking about selling houses on a street.
Hmm.
If your neighbor sells at this and you
Yeah, it's a
sort of have the
comp.
same square footage, it's a comp. So you're
Hmm.
looking at those comps, and how you do that is you go to Crunchbase, and
Okay.
you can look at all the products being funded on Crunchbase, and you can sort of set the comps, and that's how that would work. So then once you create that value cap, and so the value cap is the most someone's willing to pay, but it's a ticket to the party that hasn't happened yet, which is
Yeah.
almost a weird concept, because they're
Sure.
like, well, what am I investing in? What am I getting? Well, I don't know the strike price of the shares, so I can't tell you how many shares you're going to have.
Yeah.
Well, every sort of round we're adding more shares to the company, and so there's dilution happening there,
Hmm.
which is company wide against
Hmm.
everyone. Now, as you sit in a safe on the sideline, you have no dilution because you actually have own the stock to get diluted.
Hmm.
So I don't know how much percent ownership you're going to have. I don't know how many shares you're going to have. But what I'm selling you is, for this huge amount of money, which for me was a $50,000 minimum investment, is a ticket to a party that is sometime going to happen, which
Yes.
is called the Series A qualified round. Now,
Yeah.
some people series their seed rounds. We didn't. We decided not to do that
Hmm.
for various reasons. But so I say, okay, well, $10 million. What does it mean? Well, it means when you convert into stock, the most your conversionable price will be is the value cap of 10 million.
Hmm.
Now, you have sort of two mechanisms of that you can offer an investor on the safe side. One, you can say, well, if the value cap is too high, you'll just convert at whatever the series qualified round is. So whatever the
Okay.
VC comes in at, you're going to get that price. So if I'm wrong and the VC comes in at 10 million, you're going to come in at the 10 million price. But
Hmm.
if they come in at 100 million, you're going to come in at 10 million, and you're going to have a
Hmm.
10x factor on the VC. Or if you are not as strong as a team, you then offer a 20% discount, meaning that even if the round ended up at 8 million and you signed a safe at a value cap of 10, you're going to
Yeah.
actually come in 20% discounted on the 8 million.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard concept to explain to young founders,
Sure.
and a lot of the time they just don't understand it. So they're
Hmm.
not able to articulate it. And so raising angels that have never made a tech
Yeah.
investment becomes sort of a complex thing to do.
Sure, that makes total
So,
sense. I mean, you're trying to
yeah.
sell an idea in a company and the value of a company that you're really having trouble putting a value on an idea that's probably going to change once you get funded.
It
uh,
gets iterated multiple
yeah.
times, and but the sexiest your product will ever be, unless you're an anomaly,
Yeah.
is when it's that napkin idea. Because
Yes.
it could be everything and anything, or it could
Yeah.
be
That's
nothing,
right.
right? So but as you start to get metrics, as you and I start to understand,
Hmm.
once you start working out the CACs and all the other
The
KPIs, the
actual
retention
value.
rate, the growth,
Yeah.
then now you're starting to come into the realm of, like, hey, you're launched. They're going to start asking you MRR, monthly recurring revenue,
Yep.
ARR, annual recurring revenue, CAC to LTV. What does it cost to acquire a customer, and what's the lifetime value of that customer?
Hmm.
And does that math? So that's where you're sort of headed into, you know, post the seed round. to go into
That's
Series A.
that's such a great explanation. I appreciate you laying that out. So we only have a few more minutes here. I
Right.
wanted to ask you some questions that I think investors would probably ask you, and that those are, if you're building this new app, this company, can Meta or Snap or Airbnb just build this themselves? And if so, why haven't they done it?
Well, I would have answered that differently up until 2 days ago when I just read something on the internet. No, so let's talk about Meta for an instance. I've been trying to get a, an issue resolved for the blue check for our company for 2 months. They don't even write back. So I wouldn't trust them to check me into my hotel room on the
Yeah,
night of,
right,
So
right.
what I do say is affiliate links have been around for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? The ability to connect a post to an external site, and then you can go book travel there. So you can put up a post of a video,
Purchase, yeah.
book that, and that's been around. That's been around for decades. So it's not really changing the metric of what we see because the average user is not connecting those links. So I still go to social media 9 times out of 10 and see something, and I'm like, I don't know how to book this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Meta will join the space because you have to physically become a travel agency. It's not the same thing as just linking to travel. You have to be the travel agency, provide all the customer service. So
Yeah,
I
right.
don't see Meta or Mark Zuckerberg, based upon what he's building and his heaviness into sort of the
The
AR, VR
virtual
space,
world. Yeah.
right, that he's trying to now build a travel agency. Um, TikTok, on the other hand, um, seems to think that they can do every single thing that exists on the internet better than everyone else. So TikTok has built their TikTok store, and they're competing with Amazon.
Yeah.
TikTok, I heard, was building some analytical software, and they're going to be the new Google search.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read on Skift. I read something 2 days ago that they, as of March, they're looking into, because they realize it's an overwhelming amount of people putting travel content on there.
Yeah.
Travel is the 12th most used hashtag blended across all social platforms, and there's
I believe it.
millions of
Yeah.
hashtags. So I saw an article that they are looking into it. Who knows? Maybe they'll get banned. I don't
Yeah.
know. They seem to not have the goodwill of Congress, at least. Um,
Right.
but it would be interesting to see how that turns out. And I think it's going to look a lot like just links.
Well, so what it seems like to me is your biggest competitor at scale is Airbnb, because Airbnb is doing experiences. I
They
know when
are.
I'm booking travel, I'll book experiences through Airbnb because I start with where are we going to stay, and then I start thinking about what are we going to do, and so I can naturally book a lot of things on there. But I have to be in that mode of I'm actively looking for things. Where I think what you're building is much more intuitive, and it has the community aspect, which is huge on I think where we're going.
Right.
So it makes more sense intuitively to say, okay, I'm looking for these. I'm sort of being social first, then I'm also booking at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first of all, I love Airbnb, and I hope to build a really great platform and get acquired by them,
Hmm.
4 to 5 years.
Okay,
Um,
that was another question:
so
is what's the exit look like?
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's right there. So Airbnb, without selling one hotel and one flight, has the second largest market cap in all of travel at 200 billion.
Hmm.
Um, Booking.com, which is Priceline Booking, they're at 219 billion. I think you can see, and I think it's like 40 or 50 billion for Expedia Hospitality Group, which was a large player for a lot of years.
Hmm.
Airbnb is just redefining and building innovative technology that is taking over the market. I think their experience side is a little bit lacking because it's only these super custom experiences and
Hmm.
not kind of everything else that's sort of connected into the ticketing systems of
Hmm.
Disney, of the aquariums, of the Vatican if you're doing a Rome tour.
Sure.
But it's really cool to sort of like meet a person that's going to take you out like on their sailboat,
Hmm.
or they're just going to take you on a hike. And we do have the capabilities on our site to compete against that. Those same people can come and host those same experiences on our platform. But where we're going, that's beyond the Airbnb, is I'm trying to, and I'll sort of end what I think about this, is I'm trying to redefine the word travel. So
Okay.
right now, when you think travel, you think vacation. I think every time you walk out of that door behind you, you're traveling somewhere.
Hmm.
Where are you going? So I want to become the app of things to do locally in your city. You want to go on a date
Gotcha.
night? I want you to use my app to do that. You want to
Yeah.
go, you want to take your family out? You want to know where the best pumpkin patch is to go pumpkin picking or to see the Christmas lights. So we
Hmm.
have all these innovative features coming out called spots and events,
Okay.
and obviously dining. And so the goal and the transition of the app is to, if I were to ask you what's going on in your city tonight, you'd have to do some research. If I came to visit you right now in
Yeah.
person,
Yep.
and I want to build the app that you say, what's going on in your city tonight? Let me check Otsy. And you
Yeah.
hit that explore page. It's for you. It re-renders every category, unlike any other travel explore page.
Hmm.
The actual categories are spooled up by AI. They didn't exist until you clicked them. Literally, it made it for you.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think the interesting part becomes, is if I can become an everyday usage product that's not just when you want to take a vacation.
So it's interesting. And what it makes me think of is a few episodes ago, we had um, a lady on who has a local to Orlando, Venture Outdoor Florida is the name of her company. She does
Sure.
kayaking and hiking tours locally. And so
I
she has
did
two.
see that. I saw
Yeah. So she
that
has two
podcast. Yeah.
audiences. One is tourists that are coming from Europe or around the States that are coming to Disney mostly, but they want kind of a natural side of Florida, in addition to the theme park type of stuff.
Right.
And then she has the local people. And to me, your app would hit her type of business perfectly on the head because it caters to both of those audiences. It caters to someone going across the world that wants to
Right.
connect with people that live there and or live in Idaho that don't live near them or live here, but they're all their community of interest, shared interest is the same. Or locally, to the point you were just talking about, if I have to go, say a friend comes in town, where do we go eat? Well, here are my favorite spots, but let's take a look at Google, let's look at Yelp, let's look at TripAdvisor, let's look at all these different sort of disconnected platforms. I think what you're doing is bringing the connection, the human connection of community and shared interest, with the intuitive connection about the act, the experience of looking for wherever you're traveling or whatever you're trying to do.
Right. And you're exactly right. And I hope she becomes a vendor on our platform, and
Well,
we'll
I'll
absolutely
definitely,
help
yeah, I'll
her.
definitely tell her
We'll
about
help
it for
her.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll help her sell out her
So how does
services.
it work with
But
vendors? Like,
yeah, so we have a vendor portal
okay.
on the website. We send them a link, and they
Hmm.
upload their information, the availability, and their business licenses, and we
Yeah.
whitelist them, and then they become an experience inside of our platform. And then other creators can take the experience and create a video for it, and then it's just
Yeah.
off to the races,
That's
sort of
amazing.
from there. But yeah, so but the idea is to get like really granular, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
you may know your 5 or 6 best restaurants, but if I said, okay, look, I'm really into jazz music, where can we see some live jazz music in your home
Hmm.
city tonight? Who has the best? And is it available? How many times? And I'm in Vegas right now. It's like the capital of entertainment. I really want to see Andrea Bocelli. I have He has come every December, every year. I've missed them every single time
Hmm.
because I'm not checking Ticketmaster.
Yes.
I need
Yes.
something that's feeding me
Yes.
for me, right? You
Yes. I
know?
get the emails from Ticketmaster in the local venues in St. Augustine at Ponte Vedra Hall or whatever, where I've gone to see a concert before. And it's like,
Exactly.
you kind of get these, but it's all disconnected. It's all a lot of work actually to go and find the right thing or have it find you. And it gets on your calendar and it's booked. That's a lot of steps.
It is. And so that's sort of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make lives enriched and easier and
Mhm.
be very local and authentic. I want you to think of my app as anything to do with your family, friends, a date night. This is what you'll use. And we're not all the way there yet. We're a travel product, but that's the future of the product. So it's exciting, and we
Yeah.
are blazing a trail, and we are trying to educate people in marketing, and adoption is the name of the game, and it's the hardest thing to get on an app.
Yes, it is. Well, I wish you all the success. I know you got to run. And if people want to reach out to you and connect with you, because I know you work with a lot of founders as well, how can
I
they,
do.
how should we put them in touch with you?
So obviously, one is I'd love you to download Otsy. It's available for Android and Apple in the App Store. But also, I have a platform called Scared to Scale, and that's
Yeah, I'm taking a
scared
look
and
at that
then
right now.
to scale.com.
Yep.
And if you have a business idea, I would love for you to submit it on there. And we're helping fund young founders and put them into a mentorship program where we are helping them along the way raise capital as we are. So everything that's working for our company, we're each one teach one, reach down, pull someone else up, and we're giving them the list of the investors, how to use LinkedIn, how to use PitchBook, how to
Mhm.
create a deck that converts. And we're trying to help and foster both the Miami and Las Vegas community as much as we can,
Yeah.
with as much as we're learning. And it's an ever changing playing field. It's unfortunate the goalpost moves constantly in it,
Mhm.
so you have to just really stay above board with all your information.
For sure. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all your insights on raising capital. I wish you all the best on your app. I think it's an amazing idea, and look forward to seeing all the success you have from here on out.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, and I'd love to come back on again if you ever want to drill into
I would
a
love to.
capital raise or something.
I would
Yeah,
love to.
absolutely,
And
100%.
maybe 6 months time or year time and see where you're at with the app.
Yeah, just do a little recap, and I'll let you know. Especially after TechCrunch is a big thing for us. So you'll
Okay.
be able to see us at TechCrunch Disrupt this
Yeah.
year in San Francisco on October 28th.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.